Hello, everyone, and welcome to an extended version of the short answer. So essentially, it's going to be a long, short answer, okay? So not unlike most of my short answers, which are actually quite long, but this is going to give me permission right up front to have an extra long, short answer, and it is my great pleasure. So this has actually been recorded previously during the holy days. So there's some holy day energy infused into this for you. And of course, we are still in the holy days as you're watching this, because the holy days last until really toward the end of January. And it has to do with a time on this planet that a certain kind of energy, light, really falls upon the planet from the cosmos. So this cosmic energy is really landing here for us during this time for a very specific time, and interestingly, for a very specific reason. And the benefit to that is that you have an opportunity to unfold into more of your true self, to unfold into more of your essential self, not engaged, stuck, attached to the protective personality, but rather really operating as the soul. As the truth of you is, you are spiritual energy trying to express through this system without altercation, without alteration. And so, as there are some areas of your own consciousness that aren't quite fully developed, then the energy that expresses up through this system and out into the world is more of what we would reference as the soulful expression or the soulful self. So the soul is expressing out into the world. So the whole idea is you want to live the life of the soul. You want to live the life that you came here to live. So we know that we choose to come into this life and to have this life experience, and we know that we are requesting certain experiences at the bus stop on our way in here. So most of you are familiar with the bus stop, basically the bus stop conversation. And what I mean by that is it's like this soul contracts. Like we develop soul contracts with people and with circumstances to enable ourselves to experience certain things so that we can awaken through those experiences to a greater truth. So that we can get in touch with our stuff, come face to face with our withholds, our grievances, our grudges, and masterfully choose to lay it down. And this time of the year has been and continues to be the perfect opportunity for you to do that. So while you're watching this, you probably have been through the experience of the holidays. Maybe you've been around some family circumstances. Maybe you've been sparked into some certain memories and some dispositions, and maybe even some anniversaries that seem to come up this time of year, because it's such a cultural thing and the mass consciousness is all involved in certain traditions, getting together with family, coming through the new year, making resolutions, and now here we are into the year trying to roll with it, trying to make it happen and to manifest and to actualize that which we have been speaking about, dreaming about, and desiring. And so right now it is important for us to recognize that the whole of the cosmos is on our side. When you set an intention to become a better person, to realize a bigger version of yourself, to drop into a greater sense of self-reliance and self-assuredness, to have a collaboration with life while you're riding a wave of support, trusting that everything that happens in your life is here in support of you, trusting that when that person says something that is offensive to you, that you realize they're saying it so that you could recognize there's something inside of me that I still need to do some work with. And if I learn through the Energy Codes coursework what and how to work with that, I recognize that there's a place in my body that I'm supposed to take my attention and give it a squeeze back and let it know that it got the mind's attention. And so now the mind and the body are working together. And the way that we can infuse that with a whole new sense of self, a whole new sense of being, is if we breathe through that combination of focuses at the same time. Because as I mentioned early on, you are the spirit, and in the body, the spirit is the breath. So you have to traverse you through the body, through these areas that have surges of energy that clamp down in your throat or the knots in your stomach. You have to breathe your way through those things as if you're in there working your way up through that. Because when you do that, you start to own the place in a way that you didn't before. You start to move into rooms of your house that you haven't even been visiting. You've been going around that room because you weren't quite sure what was in there. And so what we're doing is opening up the doors, we're moving right in, and we're starting to recognize and acknowledge parts of ourselves that we haven't ever known before. Now, I don't know about you, but I first I made the inference that if there's something I don't know about myself, I probably don't like it. It's probably bad, it's probably not so good, it's probably dark in some way, and so we have a tendency to kind of avoid it. But I want you to get this. The parts of you that you don't know are the parts of you that are going to take you to the liberation, the freedom, the joy, the peace that you've been looking for. It's the parts of you that you haven't yet acknowledged, that you haven't yet invited into the party, that are going to bring a greater sense of self, a greater sense of well-being, a physical healing, a mental and emotional disposition that allows you to be available to change the relationship dynamics in your life. And when that starts to happen for yourself, the world is a different place. You start living in an entire different reality. So I have the great pleasure of drinking water while I talk. I have the great pleasure of sitting in the room with an amazing group of people right now. We're here with a number of people who have been studying BEST for a long time. And, excuse me, getting all choked up. You moved me so much. So I'd like for us to just take a little pan around and see some of these people that are here. And so as we're doing that, of course, I'm freaking out Monica, who's behind the camera, like, what? You want me to move the camera? How do we do that? I just want you guys to see that there is an amazing group of people sitting here with me in the room. Can we get that? Can we get a wave for this people? So you might be able to see them back there, way back in the shadows, back in the dark. And we're going to bring them out into the light before it's all over with. And what's happening here is we're getting together with this amazing group of people who are studying my father's work and then furthering their study with the work of the energy codes that I am bringing forward that is allowing people to understand the power of their own ability to heal. You know, with the energy codes, what we are teaching is you to build the circuitry for the soulful self to come out and have the life that it chose to come here and have. And we're actually giving it the opportunity to do so. So because you're watching an extended version of the short answer, you have the opportunity to join in on this conversation and also to join in on future conversations and actually even past conversations if you would like to join our Gold membership. There is a link that is available to you sometime during this recording, and you'll see that link. You can click on that link or go to that link, and you'll have access to being able to join the Gold membership of our conscious community. And with that, you get this kind of a conversation on an ongoing basis, and you also, every month, and you also have access to the multitude of recordings of this conversation that have already happened, that have taken place over the last several years. Excuse me. I promise I don't cough in all of those. But what happens in those archives are many, many conversations where we're answering lots and lots of questions, all wrapped into one conversation that is kind of an amazing fusion of ideas, of different aspects of life that allow us to learn how to anchor ourselves in this world in a manner that allows us to know that, hey, you know what, this is my gig. This is for me. It's not against me. The life, the world that I'm living in and that I am living as is in my favor. And that's kind of something that we don't really have a real strong handle on. We kind of think, I got to make it. I got to survive. I got to fit in. I have to do what the world thinks I should do. But I want you to know that the greatest people in our history have not been concerned about that. The people who have been game changers, who have been reality shifters, the ones who have brought us into a new understanding, the ones who have created inventions that have us, living in live streaming, that have us living on phones that operate faster than the computers that a few decades ago were also miraculous and phenomenal. The minds that generated that were the minds that set themselves free into a possibility that didn't necessarily fit in. into the possibilities that are here amongst us. They trusted their imagination. They allowed an impulse to become a reality by honoring it and acting upon it and developing it in every way that they could. So that when we think about things like, gosh, my life is just hard, and it's challenging, and how do I deal with this or that? I just want to infuse in that same moment that right after that thought, I'd love for you to follow it with the idea of, there's an answer here flowing through this body, and I am not in touch with that answer because I have not yet hooked up all my circuitry inside my system that would deliver that answer to my conscious mind. So the answer is here, but I can't access it. I can't find it. I can't feel it. I can't sense it, and therefore I can't act upon it. So all we have to do is learn how to build the circuitry to be able to perceive that greater truth that is constantly flowing through this system. And so to do that, by working with the principles of the energy codes, we learn that there is a method to every upset that you experience that is actually trying to relieve you from future upsets. Every time you are upset, there is an opportunity in that moment to never be upset about that kind of a situation again. It's kind of amazing to think about, really, that every time there's a surge of emotion in you or a push away of a rejection that happens in you because of some situation that you're in or conversation that is happening, every time you reject, resist, deny, every time you misperceive or have a grievance or an upset, every time you have a memory of something that used to be upsetting for you or that was upsetting to you a while back, every single time that happens, there is an opportunity sitting right there in the palm of your hand, right inside of your consciousness, right in your heart and your throat and your belly and your core. It's right there, just hoping that you'll land your awareness on it and pick up the little gem and do something with it. But the problem is our culture has never taught us how to do that. And so we don't. We just think, God, I just got to get through this time. I just got to get through this anniversary of this stressful time. I just have to get through the holidays. Just have to get through this or get through that. And if you've had any of those experiences in the last few weeks or months, then I guarantee you there is a gold mine waiting for you to mine it. There is a gold mine waiting for you to mind it. It's waiting for you to come into that part of you with your conscious concentration and give it some breath. So we had a question that came up as we were talking just before we got started here on this show, and someone was asking, what do we do when an anniversary of something rolls around? And we think we've dealt with it. We've even done the work of building circuits, and we tried to be present with it, and it seems that we're prepared, and then the time of year rolls around, or a certain set of stimuli come up that boom, just sets us right back in as if we're just, just a baby on it again, completely ill-equipped and feeling consumed by the emotion that's associated with this memory, this anniversary of things happening. Now, I'm just guessing, that's how it rolls. No, actually, I'm talking from experience. This is the way it is, right? So here's what we have to realize. When the anniversary rolls around, there are certain energies that are on the planet, certain energies that are in the environment, certain energies that are in the culture the same way at that time of year that aren't present other times of the year. So even if we've done the circuit building work since it happened, maybe last year at this time it happened, and since then we've been building all these circuits, but we haven't been in the exact environment until it rolls around again. And so the stimulus that agitates and that aggravates and that is scrubbing us down and rubbing us, and the friction that's being generated actually hasn't been generated to its fullest, to that full extent, since that season rolled around last time. So while it seems like I might have been working on it all year, I actually haven't worked on it at all since that season left, right? I've been working on it, but not to every nth degree. So when the anniversary of someone passing, the anniversary of a divorce, the anniversary of losing one's job, or something happening that is very traumatic, that is very intense, rolls around again, we're now being impacted by all of the circumstances collectively, the whole shebang, for the first time in a year. And so it's very important that we give ourselves a break in that situation, and as if it had only been a week since it happened, as if it had only been a month since it happened. 3 months at the max, because every season is about 3 months, maybe 4 months if you're really pushing it, before you're rolling into another set of energies that we have culturally packaged together. And so in that packaging together of them, we move on to something else. You know, we move on from one holiday to the next. We move on from winter to spring, and spring to summer, and summer to fall, etc. And each of those seasons has a unique cycle within it. So you want to breathe deeply on this and allow yourself during the time that the anniversary has come around to be real practice ground for you. Have zero judgment on the fact that it should have been resolved by now. And here's a big part of the Energy Code's teaching. There is no such thing as a negative emotion, right? There is no such thing as something bad. There are heavy energies and lightweight energies, effervescent energies. All of them are necessary for you to expand and to anchor, to expand and to anchor, and to embody and to integrate. All of them are necessary. So if we can start to embrace them all as valuable, what happens then is when the grief rises and you feel like crying, or you feel confused or disillusioned, like how could this happen? Or whatever the response is, if you can allow yourself to move into that response fully and wholly, without question, without reserve, without regret, without judgment, and feel it fully, you could actually feel it fully in 30 seconds, or in 60 seconds, or in 5 minutes, if you would allow yourself to completely go there. But what happens is we think we shouldn't be upset. So part of us hangs on to the should, and part of us can't help but experience trying to process it the rest of the way. And now we're half-heartedly in both worlds, and neither one of them gets the true, authentic wholeness of our presence. So we have to let go of how it should be and just crash, but crash with consciousness, okay? So the conscious crashing is that you anchor in Mula Bandha and squeeze the heart and constrict the throat and roll the eyes and find that central channel and then go for it. Have at it. Let it rip. And if you give yourself a good 2 minutes of crying, I'm serious, you will be amazed at what will happen. If you let yourself fully go into the grief, go into the despair, go into the confusion, 100%, and take your attention to the body and see where in the body that's showing up. That emotional sensation is showing up in a physiological manner also. And if you squeeze that back and start breathing up and down the central channel, what happens is you start to weave circuitry through the chaotic mess that's associated with all that drama and trauma that you experienced before. And so, as you know, then, once that circuitry is in place, you can stream more powerful energy through this system than you ever could before. It's by allowing yourself to have what you have that I'm speaking about creates tremendous, tremendous evolution in your whole soulful life experience. So I had this, since we'd mentioned that just before, I had him grab this notebook for me, and I just wanted to show you that on this is one of the pages out of our workbook that we're working with, is a spiral, ever spiraling upward, getting bigger, more expansive as it elevates. And through that spiral is an arrow just rising up right through it. And what it's rising up through as is the evolutionary impulse that is you. In other words, you're destined to go this direction. And to get there, you go through this spiraling cycle of life, of creating new ideas, getting the benefit out of those new projects, and then letting go, and then not knowing what in the world you are and what you're supposed to do next, and then moving into another new project, and then developing that and benefiting from it and serving other people from it, and then that rides its course, and then you let that one go and you move again. All of that is going up and around this cycle. And so every time you hit this phase, Or every time you hit this phase, or every time you hit some phase in between, you're having an anniversary of an experience. So you may be, a year from now, back in the face of things that you're experiencing right now. And you may experience some similar emotions, even though you're earnestly doing your best to process them fully and authentically right here, right now. But when those things come back around, you have an opportunity to process them again. You may feel like you're back in the same place, but you're at a higher level of your own consciousness as you have returned to this state. So you're back in the same situation, but you're not the same person. So make sure that just because you feel a few similarities, that you don't have a judgment on the whole thing and trash the idea that you're progressing at all, because it just isn't true. What's happening is you're refining down to the tiny details what your system is truly interested in evolving into because of that situation. And as you are evolving into this more expanded and elevated version of you, you're coming closer and closer to your soulful destiny. And this is what is happening. You know, we were just speaking about, before we got started as well, that you have a friend who experiences the same time of the year a difficult situation because of what was the circumstance?
She was 32. Her husband was killed in a traumatic accident at work. And even 50 years later, when it came upon, it was in December he died. And beginning of December, she would start going into depression. And it took her years in this talking to figure out why she was doing it. It was because of when he died.
To figure out that it could happen. So it's a wonderful thing to be aware of, that oftentimes a few weeks or months even before an anniversary of the passing of a beloved, the shearing of your world the way that you understood it, particularly when we're living in the outer personality world, oriented toward the outer world and defining our sense of okayness and well-being based upon, based upon what we experience in exchange with other people. So to translate, my okayness is based upon my relationship. My okayness is based upon my job. My okayness is based upon the way things go, my acceptance with some idea that I have. And if my okayness is based upon something of that nature, I have to say, it's almost inevitable that some version of that is going to have to be kind of taken away. And that is a part of the great awakening that humanity is here to go through, to awaken up through. Part of the process is disillusionment. Everyone is going to have to go through some sense of disillusionment at some point in their life process of realizing, oh my God, this whole reality that I had cooked up and this whole perfect life that I was working toward and getting so close to generating, I was trying to build my castle in the sand. I was actually trying to build something that inevitably will fall or be washed away because it's the illusionary world. And if I'm depending on that illusionary world for my sense of well-being, then guarantee it's going to have to get nailed. It's going to have the rug pulled out from under it or get blindsided in some fashion, because my soulful self will never have its fullness experienced in this dimension if I live my entire life thinking that the outer world determines my well-being, because it simply isn't true. The outer world is a reflection of my well-being. And so if there's some wobble in me, then it's going to have to be addressed, and it will be addressed by something dramatically shifting my sense of security, my illusionary sense of security. And so if we know that disillusionment is inevitable, if we know that it is part of the plan, then we can embrace it with a little more acceptance and not be so derailed that it blows our doors off and renders us really dysfunctional. That's not our destiny. Our destiny is to awaken to our magnificent power. And when we begin to awaken to our magnificent power, we begin to be able to be a stabilizing presence in this world instead of the wobble that's needing help all the time. Now, when we are needing help, when we're in the wobble and we're not the stabilizing presence, it is paramount that we honor that and that we have what we're having and that we come present with the breath of our own loving presence into our core, not just into your heart and recede into the bed and pull the covers over your head, but into your core and ask an important question. Where in my body am I feeling a dissonance, a surge of energy, a tightness, a knot? Where in my body is something operating differently than the rest of me? Because that specific spot is going to be your answer. It's going to show you how to tie things together and allow a flow of energy to move through you that was just backlogging and getting stuck and stymieing and hitting a wall when it was trying to be on a freeway. And so in that moment, we have an opportunity to take the very disillusioning thing that is so upsetting to us and turn it into really something that is offering a tremendous amount of support. And when we can start to live with life that way, we're walking our way back into this soulful, essential self. And when we do that, everything begins to change. So if you're starting to notice that, when the new year rolls around, I just really struggle. I don't know what it is. I lose focus and I set all these intentions and now I was out of the starting blocks and I'm already starting to waver or to quiver and to wobble. Or maybe the springtime rolls around and you get a surge of hope or a breath of new life, but then by summertime, you're fogged out again. When you start to see any kind of rhythm like this or any kind of pattern, just know that you're on your way up that spiral, that you're coming around that spiral of this cycle of life, and it's part of an evolutionary process that's happening. Your job is to make sure you're addressing these things from a higher frequency perspective than you were last time around. And that equates to a greater sense of self, a greater sense of peace, a greater opening. So I'd love for you right now to squeeze every muscle at the base of your pelvic bowl and squeeze the muscles inside the chest, the heart space, as if you're giving yourself a hug in there, and constrict the muscles in your throat for just a moment. And then roll your eyes up without pointing your nose up. Roll your eyes up and feel the tension behind your eyes. When you feel that tension behind your eyes, make that the top of a plumb line that's going to drop right down through the central core channel of your body. And in that central core channel of the body is where you really live. That's the real you. And the more you can come into this area, instead of dispersing your energy out into the room or out into the crowd or out into the news or out into your thoughts or out into the past, whatever we tend to do, instead of doing any of that, if you can allow this energy to stay concentrated, to stay in the core, and to stay focused on this central channel and breathe, if you can allow yourself to do that in this moment, you're going to start to feel a quickening of energy in your core. And so we're going to take a breath from below where we're sitting and breathe up into the belly and squeeze the heart and squeeze these muscles at the base of the pelvic bowl. I call that Mula Bandha. It's an ancient Eastern Sanskrit term that means root lock. So you're locking yourself at the root and we're squeezing all this channel. We're just going to breathe up from below where we sit, breathe into the core, let it feel good, and then exhale slowly up and out through the top of your head, just all the way out the top. And then take a deep breath in from overhead and breathe right back down through the center of your brain, through the throat, through the chest, right into the belly, and let that feel good. Just let it feel good. Command that it feel good, no matter what's going on in your life right now, no matter what you've been through with the holidays, no matter what is happening. And now exhale, come present to yourself. Lovingly, compassionately, come present to yourself. And then exhale through the Mula Bandha, through the root lock, down into the earth. Let's take one more breath. Up from the earth, through Mula Bandha, through the squeezed heart, constrict the throat, roll the eyes, find those anchor points, and then exhale right up and out the crown. And then take a deep breath in from overhead and bring it right down in, as if you're letting a waterfall of lighted love just pour down into you. And let it feel good into your core, and then exhale that down through Mula Bandha and into the earth beneath where you sit. Now, this is the moment where if you'll stay in that disposition, stay in the core where that channeled energy brought you, and stay there and release Mula Bandha. But stay there. Stay locked in there, but release the muscles. Stay in your heart and release the muscles. Stay in the center of your throat and release the muscles. Stay in the center of the brain, but release the eyes. Open inside that central channel, but stay in there. Stay on subject. Stay in the core of you. And now take a breath from above your head. Open the central channel and breathe into the belly. Stay without dispersing. And now exhale into the earth. And inhale up from the earth into the belly. And exhale out the crown of your head. Stay in the channel, but stay relaxed. Now, one more breath from overhead. Breathe down into your belly and keep inhaling in your belly until you drop the pelvic bowl toward the earth. Just drop it down, extend it, expand in your belly, downward toward the earth, and then exhale into the earth. This gives a sense of relaxation and connection in the emotional body and anchors it to the earth energies, which are very, very grounding to you. And now take one last breath in, up from the earth, through this anchored, centered central channel. Drop the belly down toward the earth and let it feel good in your heart space. And then exhale up and out the top of the head while staying in the central channel without all the squeezing. So we do a lot of that squeezing when we're trying to cut a swath through the jungle and build new circuits. But what we've just done in this relaxed version of this is allow a greater, deeper, more welcome, refined, subtle sense of circuit building to occur. And when that happens, we're much more compassionate, we're much more equipped to handle the emotions that are so upsetting, the grievances that we carry, the things that we wish had never occurred. We become much more capable of transmuting them into a vibrational frequency that is more resonant and acceptable by us. We can feel what we're feeling without wanting to push it away, because we tell the subconscious, we've got this, we can handle this, we can be present with whatever is rising in this life. So no matter how many times we go around that spiral and feel like we're bumping into the anniversaries of difficult times or challenging times, we start to build the acuity of being able to be present for ourselves in all kinds of circumstances. And when we are learning to be present for ourselves, we are learning to be present for others. And when that happens, we become a compassionate leading force in the world. And that is definitely what our culture is looking to know. We are looking to know what the truth is, when it is time to speak the truth, how to gracefully speak the truth, how to stand in what our authenticity, no matter what happens. And we're learning to recognize that in the end, it all leads to something magnificent. It all leads to our great awakening. So hopefully that's been helpful. We spoke to a couple of the things that were asked about beforehand, and hopefully it's been helpful for you. What I would love to say is it's the beginning of a year that is always a time for you to just kind of close your eyes and go for it. So if there's something that you feel an urge to support it. If there's something you feel an urge to speak into it. An urge to step into something and try it. I assure you, there is no better time on the planet than right now. We have just spent holy days, weeks on end, coming to this place where our consciousness is ripe for creatorship to step in and generate a new beginning. We've been in a house cleaning, whether we knew it or not. Our own ascending consciousness is landing in the high brain centers right now. So have it, and have it your way. And as you do that, you will come to know yourself as the creator that you are. And you will then be able to lead the life that you are intended to be leading. And so, live fully and breathe fully, deeply into the core of your being, and know that the stream that is passing through this system is in your favor. And there is nothing that it is not supported by. In fact, that stream is so much in your favor, it is the truth of you. You are the stream of energy that is moving through this system, completely, constantly, and continuously supported by the entire cosmos. And so, speaking to you from home with my amazing peeps here at the same time, we wish you the best of New Year's and a wonderful, wonderful exploration of your own soulful adventure that you signed up for long ago. Trust me, it is all supported and you're not alone. So, many, many blessings to you, and let us know how we can be of service to you. Contact us at drsuemorter.com and perhaps get involved in the coursework this year to learn a deeper version of how to live life fully. Many, many blessings to you all. Namaste.